So existence itself is understood as almost like the word of God. You know, Jesus, alayhi salam, was called the word of God. The perfect human being is the word of God. But everything in existence speaks about God in a way. By its state, by its being, it shows some of the divine qualities. For example, you put a seed and you get a tree with fruits. So it shows the generosity of the source, of the creator. And if you keep reflecting more in anything in existence, you will see that it speaks by its state, it speaks of the divine qualities. So that is the beauty of it. So the divine qualities is what brings things into existence. For example, scientists call something gravity, but gravity is like love and union. Love and union is in Arabic al-wadud al-jami', which are considered divine attributes. So wherever you look in the creation, you see that what brought the creation into being and managing it are qualities, invisible qualities. Even science know it's invisible. They just call it something different. Like, you know, they call magnetic field, but it is not something you can see. You can feel its effect, you can measure its effect, but you can't see. So there is a dimension for the world that is invisible. Even quantum mechanics tells us so. And this is governed by the divine qualities that bring things into existence. The human worlds resemble the creation because we are the microcosm of the macrocosm. And we inherited everything from the world. We are the stardust, as they call. So everything is within us. And we were taught how to name things, how to find the qualities of things. We have these abilities that are divine gift for us. And so our words, and Mastura will talk about that part, resemble the levels of creations. And so our words, when they come out, even our thoughts, which unspoken words, also have an influence. But the spoken word also have an influence on, like my word can go and raise somebody's blood pressure because I can annoy them that much, or it can lift someone's spirit, can heal someone emotional wound, can show them they are loved, they are accepted, and that can make a huge shift in one's life. So words influence not only us, but influence the world around us in a subtle way that we can't grasp. But when you think that the physical wave of sound comes from a deep quality that need to be expressed, so it has a spirit behind it, and when it takes a physical form, the physical form vanishes and lands as a meaning and the quality in someone else. So the spirit is traveling with sound. So every letter or every sound has a spirit. And when we look at the cosmos, all of a sudden I could see the Alif Lam Mim, or the A, L sound and M sound. Alif Lam Mim are initial letters, mystical letters mentioned in the beginning of the Quran. Similarly, I think in the Torah that you find also some verses have initial letters like that, which people try to understand what they mean. So I was immersing myself in studying Ibn Arabi, and all of a sudden I wake up almost seeing the Alif Lam Mim, even though they are invisible, their cosmic dimension. Because the Alif is like one, as you see its shape here, the Alif in blue. So you find that every star or planet has an invisible axe. Scientists measure it, they know the Earth rotates around its axe, but it is something invisible. That's the letter Aleph. And then everything wobbles. And the L in Arabic language, or Lam, has a curve almost like a half of the sphere, and it causes the wobble. Everything, the Earth wobbles. And as it rotates around itself, we experience day and night. We can calculate a time, a day. And then the Earth also rotates around the sun, and the rotation is like meme. So meme in Arabic language is really a sphere with a connection, but the font in the computer does not make it appear as such. But this is how we write it. We learn how to write it as children. It's like a circle with a connection. So this circle is the rotation. The rotation is a circle. So when the Earth rotates around the sun, we experience the 4 seasons. We're able to calculate what we call a year. Then when you look at the axe, scientists know that when the Earth rotates around itself and rotates around the sun, the axe draws a sphere that is in a very slow motion. It takes 25,752 years, 752. It's 25,752 years. It is called the Platonic year or the Great Year, where something shifts, like the North Star shifts and so forth. And we're now actually in a time where we're moving to Aquarius, or so the people who study astrology or astronomy know these things, and they call it the Platonic year or the Great Year. 1 hour in the Great Year is equivalent to 3 years of what we count. And the year 71 or 72, something like that, years. So the Quran speaks about a clock, about the last day and the last hour. And so the Aleph Lam Mim, all of a sudden it makes sense to me. It's a cosmic clock. The Earth has its clock. As it rotates, we calculate the day and the year and the great year. But so every planet and the star has that too. So imagine they are all clocks ticking, tick, 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 tick. And subhanallah is like that affects things that happen on Earth, because just as the seasons affect the Earth, it affects what we plant. In summer, we plant something. In spring, we harvest something. So it affects our life directly on Earth. So all of that is like we need to read the science. And the ancients knew how to read the science and how to seek directions through the stars. When they see a particular star appearing in the sky, they know tomorrow will be cold, and we need to do this and this. Or the attitude of people will be to isolate themselves because it's very cold at their homes, so there will not be socialization as much, and that maybe people will get depressed a little bit. So they were able to read based on observation and not based on superstition. So that is something that I realized recently. Then I looked also.
Manny?
Yes.
Excuse me. Before you go on, I just want to clarify something you said, because I think you just accidentally misspoke. But when you said that the 71 to 72 years is, I think you said it was a year, but it's in the great year, it's actually a day. A day in the great year, in the Platonic year, is in our Earth years 71 to 72. And that's significant.
The hour is 3 years. Yes.
Yeah. The hour is 3 years and the day is 71, 72. And that's significant because that, you know, like Allah, God asks, what will you do with your one great day? And, you know, it's like, what will you do with your lifespan, your time here on earth? So,
And for those who believe in the Quran and recite it in the way what we call with tune, tajweed in Arabic language, when we recite Alif Lam Mim, if you have that understanding, then you're not just saying words with sound, you're actually tuning yourself, because it's a clock, you're tuning yourself to the rhythm of earth and of the universe. You're tuning your heart like that. So when we also look at the phases of the moon, we find there are 28. And the Arab, since the ancient times, and Ibn Arabi talks about that too, associated the Arabic letters or sounds with the phases of the moon and also with the houses of the moon. So there is the phases of the moon means how much we see of the moon. The house of the moon is that we have the sphere, and if you divide the sphere into zones, for example, you get the 12 zodiac signs. But if you divide it according to the 28, you get the houses of the moon. So there is the houses of the sun, the houses of the moon. And so they used to read this to see every house of the moon has a letter, and every phase as well. So every phase has a letter, every house has a letter. So they read the background of the stars. When the sun, for example, when the moon is full, it illuminates more of the stars. So the background of the stars, not only the zodiac signs appear, other stars too. They named them, they mapped them, they know the significance of their appearance and what does it mean on Earth about weather and climate and the effect on harvest and planting and people attitude and so forth. So I was looking a little bit more deeper, and all of a sudden I could see it. Once I found this picture, something became clear to me. So alhamdulillah, subhanallah, that the shapes of the letters came from the movement, the motion of the moon across the horizon. That is how they made the shapes of Arabic letters. For example, the letter Ba looks like an arc. It can be drawn in different fonts differently, but that is its simple form, a small arc. So when you look at Aleph with the new moon is Aleph, A. And the Ba is the beginning of the waning phases. So here is the full moon, and the Ba is the waning phases. And you know the Earth is a sphere, so if you're tracing the path of light, then it looks like a curve, like an arc. And that is the main shape of the Ba. But also if you trace how the moon moved, it gives you this arc also. So it's the Ba in the beginning and the end of word, which is written differently in Arabic. So it gives you that shape. And here another example, the J sound, which is called Jim in Arabic language. And you can find its shape taken also from that. Like when you connect the Aleph, Jim, and the Ba, and then you see how the curve, when it is curved, then you find it gives you almost the shape of the Jim. Of course, the computer font makes it like that, but that is its simple form, is taken from there. And another example is the Dal sound, the G sound. You find its shape also of the motion, the trace of the motion until it reaches to the house or the phase of Dal, the phase of the moon that has the letter Dal according to the ancient, because they took the shape from there. That is why. And here is the Zain, which is the Z sound, is also taking the shape, is taken from the motion of the moon as it moves across the horizon. And the Fa sound, another one, and it's spherical because the light starts to shift with the waning, you know, it starts to shift to the other side of the earth. I'm trying to make it visible for people, which is hard using the technology, but you see that the Aleph is the beginning of the new moon, where the Ba will be the waning, where still the light is here, but a little bit of darkness, because it curves the other way. That's why it's a curve. When you connect the Aleph and the Ba, it makes the shape of the Ba. And similarly, the Jim or J sound, I was trying to make it in a cross section to also show how it happens. And this is about the houses of the moon. Here you see the zodiac signs, which maybe they are called the houses of the sun. Then there is the lunar houses as the moon rotates around the earth. And the earth is rotating around the sun. Again, there is a luminous background of the sky that when you look at a certain day, in a certain month, in a zodiac sign, you will see certain stars, and they know the significance of these stars. So those are all the houses of the moon, the houses of the sun. And because of that significance of how, can you still see that other slide with the hot, cold, dry, and moist? Because my internet was unstable. So because of the significance of how the movement of the moon and the sun affects the tides, the climate, the attitude of people, these motions again in the shapes of the letters. So these letters are giving the nature of hot, cold, dry, or moist, based on what is happening in that house of the moon that has that letter shape. And not only that, that every letter is associated with a planet. For example, Venus will be in the house of the moon in a certain month, appearing on Earth. So it means that it's has a relationship to that letter. And from this nature, hot, cold, dry, and moist, the things, the elements on Earth manifest and change. So there is the hot, the fire, the earth, the air, and water. So the moon causes the air, the tide, the water to rise, right? When it is in its waxing phase. And that affects us also. Research found that the people who have mental illness, such as schizophrenia, it follows the pattern of the moon. And we know that women period also do. And we know that sleeplessness can also, our sleep can be affected with that as well. So and the new researches are coming to show that it is true. What the ancients believed were true, but was forgotten for a while. And now scientists are trying to test it. And this is an example of how the house of the moon look like. I chose the letter Ra, R. It is called the house of an-na'im, the gifts. Why? Because it's the most luminous. The moon is luminous, so it illuminates more of the background that we can see, more stars. So there is about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 stars, significant stars, called the teapot in English, but called blessings in Arabic language, or gifts, because their life was connected. They know what is the meaning of this appearance of these certain stars at this certain time of the year, what that's significant to them. So that is a house of the moon. It is different than the zodiac signs, but it can show part of the zodiac signs. included in the house of the moon, or sometimes parts of two zodiac signs included in the house of the moon, because you're dividing the circle, the 36 degrees, into 28 zones, right? 14 that we see, and 14 is on the other side of the earth. And that takes us to sacred geometry, because if we talk about the Aleph as the axe of every planet and the star, there is a center. The center is the dot, and there is the body that rotates, which is like a circle, if you take a cross section, kind of. And that is the people who study sacred geometry find that meaningful, because the center is the divine essence, and the circle is the divine qualities that manage or manifest the creation. And so this circle starts to create more circles, kind of. So 2 circles, 3 circles, 4, until you reach 7 circle, and it makes the shape of a flower. It is called the seed of life. And when there are plenty of flowers, it's called the flower of life. But when there is 8 circles, where there is almost 3 dimensions starts to manifest, because 2 circles on top of one another, that is called the egg of life, because the 3 dimensions starts to manifest. And then there is more things, I think we can talk about it later, but this shows the emergence of the 3D dimensions, the cube, Star of David, and the cube. The cube is significant to Muslim, the Star of David to the Jewish, and the other shapes emerge too, which are significant to the Buddhists and the Hindus, with the chakras and so forth. So these 3 dimensions is the emergence of the element on the earth. The chemical table, when you look at it, and how the atoms bond together, and so forth. And in the human being, you also see sacred geometry for those who study it. But the significant thing too, like in the macrocosm, the microcosm, when you see the subatomic from which the elementary subatomic from which the physical world is made, you find you have the quarks and the antiquarks, and the leptons and the antileptons, and the 4 bosons and the Higgs boson. So when you count, you will find there are 28, and the Higgs boson is the 29th. Similarly, in Arabic language, you can see there are 28 letters, and you can find that there is the A sound, which is like almost like the Higgs boson, I call it. And this is because in quantum mechanics, supposedly everything comes from a string, like, and imagine the letters are like strings, take shapes and vibrations from which the particles, the physical particle, emerge. It's the sacred shapes and geometry emerge from these strings that are moving according to the divine qualities that govern them. So they have spirits, which is in the quantum level. Then when you look at embryology, you find the sacred geometry. So you find that this fertilized egg starts to divide into 2, then into 3, then into 4, then into 8. And the 8 is the emergence of the 3 dimension, which is the emergence of the individuality, the new embryo starting to emerge. And this is called the egg of life. And then it continues to divide the flower of life and all of that. We can't see everything with the microscope, but you can see, as far as we went with science, you can see that sacred geometry exists. It's the underneath structure of the universe. Similarly, if you look at the stars and the planets, as they move, like if Venus moves, if Mercury moves, they move in a certain circle, but it is not quite a circle, because at a certain point, when they approach, the sun will grab them more, attract them more, So they kind of get a little bit out of the circle, then rotate again slowly. They make the wow shape in Arabic language. The wow means and. It's the unifying element. It's also the Fibonacci code, because when you look at the Fibonacci sequence, you will find the shape of the wow. And the wow, that is beauty, that is going for infinity. The golden ratio goes to infinity. And that is the Fibonacci code that exists as the divine signature in the universe. It's the manifestation of beauty. There is something called the reverse of Fibonacci code, which may be the decay, or maybe the reverse exists as well. So the yin and yang kind of. So the wow, as you see, its shape emerges from the geometry that calculates the Fibonacci sequence. And Fibonacci sequence, I mean, there is a lot of pictures on YouTube that shows its existence in nature. It's almost like it's a spiral. It exists in the proportion of the human being, which Da Vinci kind of discovered. And when you look at the microcosm that is us, that we inherited the qualities of the universe, then you find that the shapes of the letters are also manifesting in the human body, just as they manifest in the acts of the earth. Our mother is the earth. It appears in our body when we stand straight, and with the hamza as the head with the brain, which is where the mind uses to function, right? So the Aleph exists also. It symbolizes the individuality, the singularity, the one, the source, and it exists inside, not only in the outer shape, it exists in the spinal cord, which makes the body behaves as one, with the Hamza on top, like connecting to the brain. And it exists also in the nose here, which has to do with the breath, which Mastura, may talk about. And it's the unifying aspect of the breath, but then the breath goes to the duality. So you see the duality that exists in the universe, the yin and yang, the spiritual, the physical, and so forth. And another sound we will touch on today, and Mastura will talk about it more in her presentation, the ha sound. The ha sound, that's how the shape of the H in Arabic language, and it's the shape of the heart. And Mastura will explain why that is significant. And the ha and the wow, the W and the H, makes the sound of hu in Arabic language. And hu in the Quran is the divine essence, So ha is the divine jalal, majesty, and wow is the divine beauty. And that is a significant sound for meditation in Arabic language. You see, the ha and the wow make the shape of the letter, because the heart also has the Fibonacci code, or the wow shape. Invisible, all of these are invisible aspects. Some of it can be visible. I guess I just like to end with some art thing showing my contemplation, my reflection on how everything emerges from the invisible to the visible through a spiral, through a motion. That is behind it is the source, is the divine qualities. Well, thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. And Mastura will share her presentation as well.
Yes, and just so Amani ends with the wow there. Oh, I hear an echo. Okay, that's better. So and now when I say wow, I feel a whole different meaning of wow, the divine beauty, the things in this creation that make you say, wow. You know, it's like, wow. What more can you say? Wow. So I want to pick up where on another side of that, the microcosm side, according to some of the teachings of Ibn Arabi. And uh, I'll go ahead and share my screen as well. I'll start with this. Let's see. The Muhyiddin Ibn Arabi, the letters and the levels of creation, the step levels of creation. And I'm going to be brief on this, and I'll focus on the letters that Amani talked about, the Aleph, the Ha, and the Wow, because they're significant in this teaching as well. And can you see this? I can't tell if this bar is in the way, but I love this. Actually, Amani has a book called The Emanation of Consciousness, and this quote is on the back of her book. And I got this quote from there, and I just love this picture of this little girl and her teddy bear looking out at the stars. And it says, the cosmos is letters inscribed and vowels let upon the outspread parchment of existence. And this writing continues on it everlastingly, indefinitely. It's from Muhyiddin Ibn Arabi. And I'm not going to play those. I have some clips from some of the what do you call it here? The interviews that really, you know, highlight some of these pieces. But as Ibn Arabi taught, that the body being the microcosm of the macrocosm actually mirrors this emanation of creation from source and the step levels of the creation. And like it is said that God created the creation when he spoke the word kun. Kun, he says when he wants something to be, he speaks the word kun, which means be, and it is, right? Be and it is. Kun faya kun means be and it is. And the name kun itself includes the K sound, which is, like the creator, and the nun, which is the manifest. And it tells us within everything that is be, that is spoken into existence, that the creator is contained within the existence, and the existence is, is imbued with the creator. And the word kun in B has 28 levels of that emanation of creation, 28 levels of creation, and the 28 levels traverse the four worlds. But this can be mirrored in the body along the vocal tract of the body. So this slide right here shows the vocal tract of the body and how our deepest, innermost sounds are created in this space behind the heart. And the sounds, the airway, right? When you speak through your breath, right? It is breath that gives way to speech. And what creates the sound is where there is friction created within the vocal tract that causes the vibration and the sound to be produced and then brought out from the body and into your existence. So, I'm going to talk about before I here we go. Hold on. I'm gonna skip ahead because I want to show this slide about the four worlds. So that innermost part of the four worlds is called the universal divine power, right? That's place of oneness. And from there, this is the Lahut, is the universal divine power. From there emanates out into the realm of the attributes, the individualized divine powers, as Amani was referring to the qualities of God. And then from there, that next world of the creation, and these are called the four worlds in the Sufi teachings, that next world of creation is the angelic realm. And then from there, this material realm. So this is significant because of each part of the body along the vocal tract. He associates with one of these four worlds. And So this place of the universal divine power is associated with the space just behind the heart, that innermost where he associates two letters that are from that innermost realm. And I'm going to get into a little bit of detail about this. One of them being the Aleph, the next one being the Ha. Okay. And those are the first two. I'm going to say more about this in a minute. And then the, actually the next space, the space between the upper heart and the throat is actually the malakut layer in the angelic realms. And then the Jabarut sounds correspond to the sounds that are made in the upper palate, where the tongue touches the upper palate of the mouth. And, you know, this vibrates the pineal gland, which sits right on top of that upper palate. And Valzia talked about the significance of the pineal gland. So, and then from the lips outward, that's this material realm, the Mulk reality. And the very last in that sequence, right? In that sequence is the letter or the sound of wow, right? So the Aleph, which is always the first, is is behind the heart. The Ha is next, and then the wow is last. So that really encompasses that whole vocal tract. So I'm gonna go back now, excuse me, while I go back and talk about, I'll just show you here, these space behind the heart here is the realm of the Lahut. The space from above the heart and up into the throat is the realm of the Malakut. And then from the anything made above the upper palate is of the Jabarut. And then moving out through the lips is the Mulk, the material realm. So from the universal divine power to the angelic realms, to the individualized divine powers, to the material realm. And I'll share, so you can, this just shows the order of the Arabic letters. And if you know that, you can recognize them here. And I know that's a lot. I can't give you, if you don't know that, I can't give that all to you in this time that we have here. But I'll just say enough to know that this is significant. Here is the Aleph, here is the Ha, and here is the Wow. But let me go to another spreadsheet that I have that, and I'm working on more of this spreadsheet, but I just picked out a little piece of it here because it shows the letter and its sequence in the 28 levels of creation and some of the meanings, the realms, and the parts of the body that it's associated with. You see, the Aleph is always associated with the number one, the initiator, the pen. If you're familiar with the teachings of the pen and the tablet, the Aleph is significant there. And then the Ha being that initial awakening, resurrecting, or the tablet, right? Like the canvas where he talks about, you know, the parchment, right? And so that Ha is that, let me say about the Aleph, because the Aleph in and of itself is a silent letter. And in Eric Winkle's interview, he talked about the Aleph as it's beyond the veil. It's beyond the veil. And as the Aleph comes through the veil, it comes through the mist, right? He talks about it being the mist that comes through the veil. Aleph in and of itself comes from behind the heart. It is silent, and it's, you know, when it has a hamza over it, it has the ah sound, the ah. And you can feel that coming from behind the heart, like through the mist. The space behind the heart is our umbilical cord to the divine. And when that comes through the mist, that ah, And Amani showed in that, you see the aleph along the spine and the hamza over the head. And when you think about it, right, that our existence being that, that spinal column there, or that central nervous system, it has no sound or expression until the head. The head is where the senses are, the eyes, the ears, the nose, the mouth. And that's what gives us interaction with this material world as we experience the world through our senses and our sensory perceptions. And that's what gives voice and expression to that divine essence, that silent divine essence. So that aleph is that silence that breaks through the veil and into the mist. And the ha is the first vocalized consonant, the ha. And that is the awakening, that dissolving the illusions as the path opens, revealing more depths of truth, right? And so that's the letters from behind the heart. And then these next 4 letters are letters in the Arabic alphabet that we don't have in English. And they're from the angelic realms, from the Malakut. And they're made in that space above the heart and into the throat. And if you notice, if you are familiar with these, we get into this more in our classes, but if you're familiar with them, you can feel, right? You can feel that the place of constriction and friction where the sound is produced in the body goes up just a little bit each time, up that vocal tract just a little bit each time, so that the ein is the and then the la and the k. Those are all made in order, right? That is the sequence as they move up the vocal tract from the upper heart to the throat. And then the first of the Jabarut sounds is it's the cough, which is like a click made in the tongue up against the upper palate in the very back. And I'm just going to say about the throne and the footstool, and then I'm going to skip to the wow. The throne, this is the throne. And I took Amani's chaplaincy program, and she had us dissect this paper of Ibn Arabi's, and it talked about the creation, and it talked about the throne being, still of the singular, the unified space that is pure mercy. There is pure mercy, and the footstool being where it goes from left to right, where there is a left foot and a right foot. And on the one side is pure mercy. The other side is everything else and mercy. So nothing is separate from mercy. Mercy is in everything. So from the sides of the footstool, there is mercy, pure mercy, and then there is everything, right? And the association or the level of creation is the gratitude, the appreciation that everything opens successive layers of the unique truth, right? So these are the step levels of creation, the divine attributes associated with them. There are the realms associated with them. There are body parts. There is space along the vocal tract. There's also, as Amani mentioned, the houses of the moon, and there are angels associated with each of the houses of the moon and what they bring to the earth. There's the numerology. There is so much associated with each one of these sounds and each one of these levels of creation as it manifests into this existence that we know from our physical beings from the spoken word of kun, right? And there's the hadith Qudsi that says, I was a hidden treasure and I desired to be known. So I created the creation. I made them to know me. And we are here to unpack the hidden treasure through our reading the cosmos, reading the body, and reading the Quran. So it's all here for us to unpack the hidden treasure that desires to be known, and we can unpack this from within ourselves. And I like in the experiential part of our program to invite us to melt into, bring this down a little bit, to melt into that. Yeah, okay, that's the way it's going to go. To melt into these spaces in the body and connect with these sounds where they're produced and their vibration and just lean into it, melt into it, and see what wants to open. You know, like Eric Winkle, we're talking about the dimensions of time, and time being, you know, where you drop into 1 second in time. Was it a second in time? And it has a lateral dimension that goes out 3 years in either direction for every second of time. And so, you know, what can we experience? What can we explore when we allow ourselves to just drop in and be present in that second of time with these vibrations, with where they exist along this central vocal tract? And the final of all of these, you see it goes through water, earth, mineral, plant, animal, angel, jinn, and the final is the human degree, the wow. And that is that ever infinite spiraling of the divine beauty as it moves out into this material realm and creates all of the shapes of everything found in nature, including ourselves. We are nature, right? We're not separate from it, but everything is nature, and we are nature. We are a part of the greater respiratory system, the greater circulatory system, the greater digestive system, right? We're just a part of the earth system and the cosmic system. And the divine name associated with this degrees of the human being, the lifter of degrees, is Arafia, which means the one who elevates. And this is associated with the level of creation that is shifting into greater alignment as a true representative of spirit in form as we go through our cyclic journey on this life on earth of forgetting who we are, remembering who we are, returning, forgetting, remembering, returning. That is our cycle that we go through as we are evolving and elevating, inshallah, God willing, our degree of humanity to become a clearer and truer representative of spirit in form. So this is the step levels of creation from Ibn Arabi, and I find it a fascinating study in and of itself. And you put that together with what Amani has created, and how can you say or not created, excuse me, but what Amani brings through. How can you say anything but wow? Wow.
Thank you, Mastura. I want to just add that the human degree, the wow, why it is significant, because again, wow means unifying. It means and in Arabic language. So it is what unify something with something else. So Allah gave us the ability to unify, to integrate knowledge, to know the unity of being and the singularity of the source. So there is this and that connect us to the divine directly, and that is the degree of the human being. It's an important degree, you know, that to bring the unity, to be the messengers of unity, and to see unity in the diversity itself.
Yes, thank you. So this is just some of what we dive into in the Ocean of Sound program. And we would like to invite you, we are inviting you to join us. Yes, Kim, how do you learn more of all that was just shared? This is what we dive into the Ocean of Sound program. And, you know, as we said, it's the ocean with no shore. So we dive in a little piece at a time on a monthly basis. And that's our Ocean of Sound program.